Welcome to the channel. Today we're diving into the untold stories of Black R&B legends in the LGBT community. Incredible voices, unique styles, and the courage to live authentically despite societal judgment. These stories aren't just inspiring. They'll change the way you see music and life. If you're curious to find out who they are, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out. Valerie June personifies a world of gentle dreams. Her curly hair and her voice, a delicate fusion of folk and blues, carry listeners as if strolling through corridors of memory. Yet what truly sets her apart is not her style, but her courage to admit what others rarely do, that she once loved a woman and feels no regret. Born in Memphis in 1959, Valerie grew up in a conservative household. Her father was a gospel musician and her mother a Bible teacher. From a young age, Valerie was drawn to music and literature, and she shared that passion with a close friend named Rochelle. They went to the same high school, spending countless afternoons singing together in quiet corners. One day, Valerie composed a song for Rochelle titled Apple Rain and recorded it on a cassette. When Rochelle's mother discovered it, everything shifted. Valerie was barred from seeing her friend, and Rochelle was moved to another school, no explanation offered. Heartbroken, Valerie immersed herself in the blues, a space where her pain could exist freely without judgment. In a later interview, when asked which song felt most honest, she replied, "The one no one has ever heard, and the person doesn't even remember." Valerie never married, carrying her memories and music with quiet grace. She lives quietly with a loyal dog by her side, tending her garden and continuing to weave music from her experiences. People admire her, not just for her songs, but for the way she tenderly recalls old emotional wounds like wilted flowers, kept rather than discarded. Perhaps a meaningful life isn't measured by the forgiveness of others, but by the ability to forgive the heartaches of your own youth. The ache of forbidden love can bloom into deep artistic expression, and embracing one's past is the pathway to peace and a life fully lived. Tracy Chapman is the voice of quiet strength. No noise, no scandals, no showmanship. Just a woman with a guitar singing the truths the world often avoids. Born in 1964 in Ohio, Tracy grew up in a deeply religious household. When her mother discovered letters Tracy had hidden in her closet, written to a female friend, she did not scold her. She simply handed Tracy a Bible and said, "God is waiting for you." After that, the matter was never mentioned again. Tracy's first love, according to those close to her, was a female classmate at Tufts University. They were once seen walking hand in hand through a park on a cold winter evening. The next day, her girlfriend vanished from the dormitory. Tracy didn't utter a word. That was also the last time anyone saw her smile so purely at the camera. Later, her profound connection with the writer Alice Walker was subtly confirmed through shared glances and a few notes in Walker's autobiography. Tracy never married and never publicly revealed her sexuality, yet the tenderness in every one of her songs led the LGBTQ+ community to regard her as a symbol of a love that needs no name. Not everyone has to shout to be heard. Some people can touch the hearts of an entire generation with nothing more than a sigh. Meshell Ndegeocello is truly one of a kind. No boundaries of gender, no limits on music, no need for anyone's approval to simply be herself. Born in Germany in 1968 and raised in Washington, D.C., she became one of the first openly bisexual artists in the black music industry. But that acceptance didn't come easily. Her family discovered her truth while she was still in high school. One day, her younger brother accidentally saw Meshell holding hands with a girl while they listened to music in her room. After that, there were no scoldings, just awkward glances and a widening distance. Meshell has said she learned how to love without needing understanding. Her first love met fierce resistance from her family. She was a talented female sound engineer, yet blind to the weight of harsh traditions. They parted ways after an argument, unable to live authentically without hurting those they loved. Today, Meshell lives happily with her wife and children. She has never sought forgiveness. She simply channels her experiences into music, that she says is the purest form of courage, living to heal rather than to retaliate. To live honestly with oneself and with love, even in the face of hardship and loss, is a journey toward true healing and happiness. Janelle Monáe is more than an artist. She is a living manifesto of sexual freedom and boundless creativity. Born in 1985, she has become a timeless cultural icon, bridging the pioneering spirit of R&B legends with a new generation. With a musical style blending R&B, funk, soul, and Afrofuturism, she infuses queer energy into a genre once limited by gender norms. For years, Janelle remained silent about her identity, yet her music always carried the undertones of difference. Subtle, challenging, and empowering. When she came out as pansexual and non-binary, she did so without seeking attention or fanfare. She simply lives true to herself, appearing in sparkling suits or sheer gowns, singing about love that needs no labels. Though younger than many legends, Janelle Monáe has proven that age does not define the depth of her legacy. The honesty in her music and lifestyle has shattered boundaries of gender and sexuality in the music industry, sending a powerful message about freedom, acceptance, and the right to love without having to change oneself to fit society's molds. Kaytranada born Louis Kevin Salistan in Haiti in 1992 and raised in Montreal, Canada, maybe from a younger generation, but he has become an irreplaceable icon in contemporary electronic R&B. Blending funk, soulful house, and hip-hop, Kaytranada carries forward the experimental spirit of black music legends like Frankie Knuckles and Larry Heard. He is not just a producer, he creates a musical space where black queer people can exist, love, and dance freely without asking for permission. In 2016, Kaytranada publicly came out as gay, a bold move in an industry still rife with prejudice against LGBTQ+ artists, particularly in hip-hop and R&B. He never sought the label of an LGBTQ+ icon. He simply refused to hide his true self. His music has become a sanctuary for those who feel fragile, introspective, and deeply emotional. Among lesser-known black and queer legends, Kaytranada stands out as an artist who not only honors the legacy of those who came before him, but also quietly reshapes the stage for future generations. Born in 1978 in New Orleans, Big Freedia stands as a living legend of bounce music, a high-energy subgenre of hip-hop rooted in the city's vibrant rhythms and southern flair. While not a traditional R&B artist, her impact on black queer music is profound. Identifying as gay and using she, her pronouns, Big Freedia has shattered gender norms in the mainstream, infusing unapologetic queer energy into stages that once lacked diversity and representation. Raised in a religious household and in a community that often rejected LGBTQ+ identities, Big Freedia boldly embraced her true self from a young age. Her fearless authenticity has influenced global superstars like Beyoncé and Drake, while unapologetically bringing the image of queer black people to the forefront of mainstream music. Unlike many overlooked black LGBTQ+ pioneers, Big Freedia refuses to fade into the background. She dances, she shouts, and she lives as a vibrant testament to the power of freedom, pride, and self-expression. Born in 1955 in New York, Frankie Knuckles earned the title the Godfather of house music. As a visionary DJ producer and remixer, he pioneered an entirely new sound by fusing disco soul and R&B with the lived experiences of the black queer community often marginalized after the 1980s. Inside a Chicago warehouse, Frankie did more than spin records. He built a refuge. There, LGBTQ+ people and people of color could dance, connect, and exist freely, finding joy and belonging amid the struggles of racism, HIV, and discrimination. As an openly gay man, Frankie Knuckles never had to preach about gay rights. His music spoke for him. His soulful, expansive remixes became the pulse of a generation living on the margins. Though he passed away in 2014, his influence still echoes through every R&B-infused house anthem. Each beat and remix carries a message of connection and resilience. You are not alone. Among the often overlooked black LGBTQ+ legends, Frankie Knuckles doesn't need to stand out. He is the foundation. While other girls conformed to the pop scene with gentle voices and modest looks, Nona Hendryx stormed the stage with electrifying energy, neon hair, and boots that commanded attention. She wasn't there to fit in. She was there to challenge, provoke, and inspire. Born in 1944, Nona rose to fame with LaBelle, the group behind the defiant anthem Lady Marmalade. Yet few realize that before becoming a fearless voice for feminism and the LGBT community, she was a young girl navigating a world of scrutiny and expectation. Nona revealed that by the age of 10, she already knew her heart was drawn to women. When she sat beside her best friend in class, Nona felt the flutter in her chest that everyone spoke about. Watching a girl on TV for too long, her mother would instantly change the channel. Choosing soccer over ballet earned nothing but a silent shake of disapproval from her father. No one ever struck her yet, no one held her when she needed comfort, and that quiet became her shelter. Nona's first love was Teresa, a stage designer, 7 years her senior. Their bond was so secretive that friends assumed they were cousins, until one night in Detroit a bandmate accidentally walked into their hotel room and found them entwined on the sofa, completely unaware of being discovered. The following morning, Teresa lost her job for supposedly breaking the group's code of conduct. Nona had no choice but to keep touring, performing as if nothing had happened. Yet deep inside, she understood that the cost of that love was a lifetime of quiet exclusion. Still, Nona never bowed her head. She forged a successful solo career, became an outspoken advocate for social justice, and stood proudly with the LGBT community. When asked about her sexuality, she simply said, "I love whoever makes me feel free." Today, Nona mentors young queer artists not through announcements or declarations, but through the fearless life she continues to lead. Many people spend years searching for themselves. Glenn Copeland was one of them. Born in 1944 as a black girl in Philadelphia, he grew up in a world that had no language to describe his identity. No one explained what it meant to be transgender, and no one told him that being himself was enough. Glenn started his musical journey as a folk singer and later studied at McGill University in Canada, a rare place where he felt he could truly breathe. Though rooted in R&B and jazz, he chose a bold, unconventional path, fusing electronic sounds with meditative compositions. In his early years, Glenn performed under the stage name Beverly, a name imposed on him. His family knew he was different. When his mother discovered letters he had written to a male classmate, she said nothing. She simply placed a Bible on the table with a quiet note. "You may stop praying, but don't let anyone know." In that silence, Glenn learned that he could only be himself in private. His first love was Sophie, a dance student at McGill. They kept their relationship hidden for 2 years, as if their love were forbidden. One night after a late rehearsal, they were caught embracing backstage. The next day, Sophie was transferred. Glenn wasn't expelled, but he was never cast in a leading role again. For years, he continued living as a woman, until at 50 he came out as a transgender man. In the 2000s, Glenn married Elizabeth, the one person who never tried to analyze him. She simply stayed by his side. Their marriage became a sanctuary of quiet understanding. When news of his transition spread, the public celebrated, relieved that Glenn could finally live fully as his true self and under his true name. Now in his 80s, Glenn no longer sings as much, but he continues sharing his life story with young people who feel lost, serving as a quiet beacon of hope in a long, dark night. No one asks him to inspire. Just being himself on stage is enough to bring relief to those watching. Some people spend half their lives in silence before they can speak a single honest sentence. Sometimes simply saying, "I am myself," is enough to move others' hearts. At times, that simple truth allows each of us to live a decent life true to who we really are. Gaye Adegbalola sang not just with her voice, but with the weight of the emotional scars she carried, never hiding anything, not even the love that had pushed her away from her family. Born in 1944 in Fredericksburg, Virginia, Gaye grew up in a world steeped in racial and gender prejudice. Her mother, a music teacher, hoped she would grow into a proper woman, but Gaye couldn't conform. She spoke boldly, dressed flamboyantly, and played guitar with a raw intensity. She was kicked out of her high school band simply for the way she presented herself. Gaye's mother knew she was attracted to women. One day she discovered a love letter Gaye had written to Lydia, a girl in her group. The letter, penned in purple ink, ended with the line, "If loving you is wrong, then I no longer want to be right." Gaye's mother didn't yell or cry. She simply left it on the table with a note that read, "To preserve the family's honor." Gaye's romance with Lydia lasted less than a year. At Lydia's birthday party, Gaye kissed her on the cheek in front of friends. Lydia pulled away and walked off. The next day, she refused to speak to Gaye. No goodbye, just a silence that lingered over Gaye's adolescence. Later, Gaye became one of the 3 members of the female blues group S-Fire, celebrated within the LGBT community and feminist movement, a band that defied norms and expectations. She came out as a lesbian in 1992, becoming one of the first Black artists to do so. Even early in her career, people admired her because she never pretended. "I don't just love women, I love freedom," she once said. Gaye lived quietly with her longtime partner in Virginia. No public displays, no wedding rings, just calm mornings together, sipping coffee and listening to slow blues. She didn't need the whole world to understand her. One person's understanding was enough. Her message to young people was clear: living authentically and being truly loved isn't a privilege, it's a right. In the world of silent piano keys, Billy Preston was the only man who could make the Beatles and Ray Charles rise to their feet in awe. Often called the fifth Beatle, his musical genius was undeniable. Yet behind the spotlight was a man living in constant fear of revealing his true self. Born in Houston in 1946, Billy grew up in a strict church environment and started playing piano at just 3 years old. Being black was already a struggle in his time, and being gay made life even harsher. His family's deep religious convictions shaped every choice he made. One afternoon, Billy's mother caught him embracing his boyfriend in the garage after band practice, and a single remark changed everything. "God didn't make sickness." Those words felt like a curse, forcing Billy to bury his true self. As he grew older, he formed a deep bond with a young drummer from Philadelphia. They shared hotel rooms, meals, practice sessions, and fleeting glances that spoke louder than words. But everything unraveled one night in Atlanta when the band's manager heard suspicious noises and knocked on the door. In a panic, Billy sprang up, shoving the man away and stammering, "I don't know what he's doing here." That heartbreak marked the end of Billy's first love, a casualty of fear and secrecy. From that moment on, he lived in silence, hiding his identity as a gay man. Though many in the music world suspected no one ever confronted him, he sought refuge in long nights, alcohol, and fleeting distractions. When Billy passed away in 2006 from liver and kidney complications, the world remembered not only his extraordinary talent, but also the quiet sorrow that lingered behind his smile. If Billy's story touched you, share your thoughts in the comments, leave a 1 if you empathize with his brave yet painful journey, or a 0 if your perspective differs. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more moving stories. No one shone quite like Sylvester. On stage, he became a force of liberation, a place where gender meant nothing and expression meant everything. He hit notes higher than any man dared, wore flowing gowns, painted his nails, and glittered with earrings that caught the light as boldly as his voice. Yet what left the deepest mark wasn't just his flamboyance, it was his courage, the unwavering bravery to live authentically in a world that insisted he was wrong. Born in 1947 in Los Angeles, Sylvester was the youngest child in a devout Christian home. His mother punished him for draping her scarf around his neck while singing along to Mahalia Jackson, forcing him to kneel for hours. From the very start, Sylvester knew he was different. He was drawn to the boys in the church choir, fully aware that revealing his feelings would leave him isolated and without refuge. Sylvester's first love was a dancer named James, who worked at a modest San Francisco club. They shared a ground-floor apartment bathed in soft purple light with a small bed at its center, a sanctuary that felt both magical and perilous. One night after a performance, a group of strangers ambushed them in the parking lot, hurling stones and venomous words. Sylvester, bleeding from a thrown rock, used his own blood to shield James, yet still returned to the stage that evening, performing as if nothing had happened. Society called him crazy, yet Sylvester never wavered. When the AIDS epidemic devastated the LGBT community, he was among the first to donate his earnings to help those in need. Fully aware of his own HIV-positive status, he never concealed it. On stage, he once declared, "If I must die, at least let me die in a velvet dress and to the sound of applause." Sylvester passed away in 1988 at just 41. When the news spread, reactions varied. Some sighed with relief, others wept. But what lingered most in everyone's heart was the undeniable courage of a man who dared to live fully, freely, and unapologetically. To love fearlessly and carry every burden, just to avoid hiding for another day, that was Sylvester's gift. If the world has ever rejected you for being different, let his courage guide you, and let the tenderness in his music remind you that authenticity is a triumph. This is only part of a journey marked by hidden tears. Countless iconic singers buried their deepest emotions to shine on stage. They sang through sorrow, lived through fear, yet chose truth anyway. Living authentically in the face of prejudice and danger is one of the bravest acts a person can commit. Compassion, honesty, and courage can break barriers, leaving a legacy that echoes far beyond a single lifetime. Little Richard, hailed as the architect of rock and roll and the first to bring high heels and flamboyance to black music stages, remains an unforgettable icon of charisma, talent, and rebellion. With his dazzling style and electrifying voice, he wasn't just a music legend, but a powerful symbol of freedom and self-expression. Yet behind the glitter and fame lay a lifelong struggle with identity and society's expectations. Growing up in a strict religious family in Georgia, little Richard endured harsh criticism and even violence. His own father once beat him for wearing makeup and singing in a high-pitched voice. Little Richard soon realized he was different. His heart was drawn to men. Yet in a time when homosexuality was condemned as a sin, he was forced to hide his truth. As his fame skyrocketed with hits like Tutti Frutti and Long Tall Sally, he lived a life caught between the stage lights and silence. Although he once described himself as bisexual, he never fully admitted to being gay. One story from 1956 tells of a night on tour when he shared a quiet moment with a young assistant in a hotel room, their eyes locked in unspoken connection. Later, when rumors spread, Little Richard simply said the man was his cousin. That fleeting romance ended the next day quietly, without a word. Little Richard switched hotels, hired a new assistant, and never spoke of it again. Years later, as age dimmed his once powerful voice, he turned back to religion, denouncing homosexuality as a sin. His words left the world stunned. How could a man who had defined freedom on stage repent for simply being himself? Yet perhaps it's understandable. To be black, flamboyant, and gay in the 1950s wasn't just daring, it was an act of defiance against a world that refused to understand him. Little Richard endured by hiding fragments of who he truly was, yet the brilliance of his musical legacy will never fade. Perhaps what made him so deeply loved wasn't just his talent, but his longing for forgiveness, not only from God, but from the version of himself he once tried to silence. We all carry our own battles, and often compassion begins where judgment ends. The journey toward living authentically is rarely easy, but it deserves to be met with empathy and understanding. After all, sometimes survival itself means concealing the very light that makes us shine. When people think of the crooners who made women's hearts melt in the 1950s, Johnny Mathis was always near the top. His velvety voice, tender smile, and soulful eyes seemed to hide a secret, and indeed, they did. Born in 1935 to a working-class black family in San Francisco, Johnny grew up surrounded by music and dreams bigger than his circumstances. But as he came of age, he noticed something different about himself. While the other boys whispered about pretty girls, Johnny's heart quietly raced for the tall, soft-spoken boy who sat across the room. His breakout hit, Chances Are, launched him into stardom before he even turned 23. And from that moment, his life would never be the same. Women everywhere adored Johnny Mathis, sending flowers letters and endless declarations of love. Yet behind the spotlight and sweet melodies, he often felt isolated, like he was living someone else's dream. One quiet night in Chicago, unable to sleep, Johnny slipped out of his hotel around 2 a.m., to meet a man who worked the sound system for his show. They sat together in a parked car for hours, talking about the kind of loneliness fame couldn't cure. Johnny admitted that despite the world's perception, he had never even held a woman's hand. No one would have believed it then, but it was true. For decades, Johnny Mathis kept his truth locked away, living a life that wasn't entirely his own. It wasn't until 1982 that Johnny finally admitted in an interview that he was gay, but the piece was quickly buried after a wave of public outrage. Decades later, in 2017, at the age of 80, he spoke openly again, this time with calm honesty and grace, sharing his lifelong journey toward self-acceptance. In more than 60 years of music, Johnny never married, never courted scandal, and never demanded understanding. He simply sang tenderly, quietly, and truthfully, even when the world wasn't ready to listen. To many, Johnny Mathis was the voice of romance, yet behind those timeless love songs was a man who had spent his life yearning for the simple right to love freely. Jackie Shane was the definition of unapologetic brilliance, not just a musical force, but a living symbol of freedom and self-expression. On stage, she dazzled in bright red lipstick sky-high wigs and perfectly drawn eyeliner, exuding the aura of a 60s soul queen. But what truly captivated Toronto wasn't just her electrifying performances or bold style, it was the mystery surrounding her very being. Who was Jackie Shane? A man, a woman, or something entirely beyond labels? Born in 1940 in Nashville, Jackie grew up in poverty, surrounded by judgment and rigid norms that suffocated individuality. Yet even then she knew deep inside who she truly was, and no amount of prejudice could silence that truth. By the time Jackie was 6, her mother already knew she was different. While other boys played baseball, Jackie preferred dresses, dolls, and the smooth, aching melodies of Billie Holiday. Her mother stayed silent, but her father's gaze carried questions that needed no words, questions that hurt more than they asked. Jackie would later say she learned to lie before she could read because honesty in her world came with bruises. As soon as she was old enough, Jackie ran, leaving the narrow streets of Nashville behind for the open possibilities of Canada. In Toronto's smoky soul clubs, she finally found her rhythm. The moment Jackie stepped on stage, something shifted, and within weeks, the city was under her spell. Jackie's commanding voice, fearless femininity, and unapologetic honesty made her a trailblazer, the first underground icon for Black queer souls who had long lived in silence. Yet beneath her dazzling confidence lay a story of heartbreak few ever knew. In 1963, Jackie fell deeply in love with a sound engineer she met after a show. Their connection was real but dangerously fragile in a world that refused to understand them. One afternoon, as Jackie sat at her vanity applying makeup, his mother suddenly entered the room. She looked Jackie over and said coldly, "I don't know what my son is in love with." 3 days later, he was gone. No calls, no letters, just a hollow silence that lingered longer than any song Jackie ever sang. Marlena Shaw has always carried an air of mystery. Whether through the sun-soaked grooves of her California soul or the haunting depth of her jazz, it feels like every note is a whisper from someone living between two worlds. She never sought the spotlight, never chased scandal, and never felt the need to announce herself. Yet she never denied who she was. That quiet ambiguity only deepens the intrigue around her. Born in 1942 in New Rochelle, New York, Marlena grew up in a musical household steeped in conservative values. One day in high school, her mother discovered a handwritten note to a girl named Lorraine, short, tender, and undeniably more than friendship. She was called into the kitchen where her mother held up the letter and asked quietly, "Who do you think you are?" There was no yelling, no punishment, yet the silence that night at dinner stung deeper than any scolding could. Marlena didn't answer, and in the years that followed, she never mentioned Lorraine again. Her family remained silent. She remained silent. That first love unspoken was also unforgotten. Yet in 1969, with the release of Woman of the Ghetto, Marlena's voice gave strength to Black women, and she began appearing at LGBT events, still without revealing her personal truth. When pressed, she would simply say, "I loved someone who loved me too." A witness once recalled that in 1974, during a recording session, a female sound engineer left Marlena a handwritten note. "Thank you for the hug yesterday. It was one of the rare glimpses fans ever had into her private life. She never held anyone's hand in public, and no personal photos were ever shared. Perhaps that was precisely why people admired her so deeply. She never needed to boast or explain herself. She simply existed. When Marlena passed away in 2023, thousands poured out tributes online calling her a spiritual mother, a quiet icon, and a symbol for those who love in the shadows. Carl Bean grew up a black boy in Baltimore, born in 1944, with a voice that couldn't be tamed. At 13, he was kicked out of his church choir for singing hymns too loudly, and the ridicule of adults left a mark that stayed with him for life. He loved the church and music, but the church never embraced him back. As he matured, gospel gave way to soul and disco, and Carl found his true calling. His anthem, "I Was Born." This Way wasn't just a song, it was a fearless declaration of identity, a truth he embraced fully without regret. That simple touch became a memory Carl would carry for decades. In a world where being openly gay in the black music scene of the 1970s could destroy careers and reputations, Carl kept his love private, hidden behind hymns and disco beats. His songs carried the courage and longing he couldn't speak aloud, letting the world feel what he could never say. Marcus and that fleeting moment remained a quiet secret, a reminder that even in silence love leaves its mark. Carl's story is one of courage layered with quiet defiance. Even as society, family, and church imposed limits, he refused to erase who he was. Though told to appear more masculine on stage, he let his soul shine through every note, every sermon, and every act of love. Leaving the entertainment world to become a minister, he created the Unity Fellowship Church, a sanctuary for black LGBT individuals who had been rejected by faith communities. Carl didn't just sing, he paved a path for others to live authentically, proving that true strength comes from embracing oneself fully, no matter the cost. Linda Tillery never aimed to fit anyone's mold. From her early days with Loading Zone, she infused every note with her own distinctive funk and soul. Yet behind that fearless artistry was a young woman quietly terrified that her family might uncover her true sexuality. Born in 1948 in the San Francisco Bay Area, Linda grew up in a working-class home where appearances mattered. Her mother first noticed her difference when she found magazine clippings of women carefully hidden inside the Bible. No words were exchanged, but the tension in the room whenever Linda appeared was unmistakable. She understood that her family's silence was their way of acknowledging her truth without saying it aloud. Linda's first love was a modern dancer, and their bond blossomed quickly after meeting at a performance. One evening, they were caught sharing a kiss backstage by a production staffer. By the next morning, the dancer had been reassigned behind the scenes. Linda never spoke of the incident again, but her music transformed bolder, more explosive, as if every note was a defiant declaration words could never capture. When she later came out as a lesbian, she offered no explanations, needing none. She simply stated, "I love someone, and I don't see anything wrong with that." Today, Linda leads a serene life unmarried, dedicating her time to teaching music and inspiring new generations. Peace is not always won through triumph. Sometimes it is the reward for those who dare to follow their own rhythm despite the weight of family expectations and societal norms. Staying true to oneself, cultivating inner strength, and resisting external pressures can create a life that is both fulfilling and a beacon of inspiration for others. Phyllis Hyman has always carried an air of mystery. Her sorrowful eyes, warm velvet-like voice, and the way she pauses before singing make listeners feel as if she's about to reveal a secret they once knew. She was more than a soul singer. She embodied the struggle of a heart that had to hide its desires. Born in 1949, Phyllis grew up in a large Philadelphia family. Her father was strict, her mother reserved. As a teenager, a cousin once caught her holding hands with her closest friend. No one spoke of it yet, Afterward, she was forbidden from staying over at friends' houses and was sent to a convent school for 2 years. Her first love was a lounge singer in New York. They kept their romance hidden, but fame pulled them apart. Once an ex called weeping, saying he couldn't bear to see Phyllis kiss another man on stage. She said nothing. That night, she penned a song, never released a silent apology she never sent. Over the years, rumors whispered that Phyllis loved both men and women, though nothing was ever confirmed. The public came to know her as the classic loner of soul music, a figure wrapped in mystery and quiet longing. When Phyllis passed away in 1995 from a drug overdose, many said it was the disappointment of her career unfulfilled that weighed on her. Yet those closest to her knew the deeper ache never being loved as she truly longed to be. No one should have to die for concealing their heart, nor live a lifetime in silence to satisfy others. The burden of hiding one's true self can endure far beyond public success. Often the cost of suppression is far heavier than any professional setback. Arnold McCullers was rarely in the spotlight, yet his voice lingered in the hearts of millions. As a backup singer for James Taylor, Phil Collins, and other icons, he added depth and soul to every note, even while living largely in the shadows. Born in Cleveland in 1950, Arnold grew up in a strict Catholic household. His father insisted that a real man never sang sentimental songs. One afternoon, discovering a picture of an actor tucked in Arnold's wallet, he tossed it into the fireplace, muttering, "We don't live like that in this house." From that moment, Arnold understood that part of himself would have to remain hidden. The incident marked a turning point in Arnold's life. Though he never denied who he was, he learned that love like music could be both beautiful and perilous. His bandmate eventually drifted away, leaving Arnold with a bittersweet memory he carried quietly for decades. On stage, he poured every ounce of longing and restraint into his singing, letting the music speak where words could not. By the 1990s, Arnold had settled into a quieter life, sharing his truth in small, safe ways like bringing his wife to a charity concert. Most of the audience never noticed, but one older fan whispered, "I wish he had done it sooner," a quiet acknowledgement of a life lived partially in shadow, yet always full of music. Luther's first love was a fellow singer he met during his early recording sessions. Their connection was deep but fragile, hidden behind rehearsals, late-night studio sessions, and whispered conversations in empty hallways. One night, after a private performance, they shared a kiss in the dim glow of the stage lights, an intimate moment that could never exist in the public eye. Luther carried that love quietly, channeling every unspoken emotion into his music. On stage, his voice conveyed desire, devotion, and heartache, though the audience never knew the personal truth behind it. Even in the peak of fame, Luther remained reserved, letting the songs tell what words could not. Luther Vandross's story is a reminder that even the most gifted voices can carry silent burdens. Though the world celebrated his love songs, few understood the private longing behind them, the love he cherished but never revealed. His life shows how societal pressures, family expectations, and personal fears can keep even the brightest hearts in shadow. Yet through every note, every melody, he shared pieces of his truth, teaching that sometimes art itself becomes the only way to fully live and love. Absolutely. Luther Vandross's life highlights a painful truth. Sometimes love is sacrificed in silence, even by those who give it so freely. His courage wasn't in public declarations, but in continuing to pour his heart into music, offering the world his truth in melody when he couldn't in words. Yet the loneliness he endured reminds us that no one should have to hide who they are to be kind or protect others. His legacy teaches the quiet power of integrity and the profound human need to be genuinely seen and loved. These stories remind us of the incredible power of music, courage, and resilience in the pursuit of living authentically. Enjoy the video and don't forget to subscribe to support our channel. Share your thoughts below and help us keep creating inspiring content for you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.